Today we're going to drive the Bugatti Chiron for the first time since the accident. Here you can see
the story of rebuilding a crashed hypercar usually ends in one word: impossible. That is especially true when the car in question is a Bugatti Chiron, one of the most complex and expensive machines ever built. When this particular Chiron was split in half after a serious accident, most people believed it would never drive again. Even Mate Rimac, the CEO of Bugatti, suggested that such a rebuild could not be done outside of the factory with specialized tools, original parts, and expert engineers. But then came Armstrong, a mechanic and YouTuber known for taking on impossible projects and turning them into success stories. What started as a risky idea slowly turned into one of the most talked about automotive rebuilds in recent history. After months of hard work, failed attempts, and creative problem solving, the moment finally arrived. The Chiron was ready to move under its own power again. This was not just about fixing a car. It was about proving a point. The pressure was high, not only because of the complexity of the machine, but also because the entire automotive world was watching. Would the rebuilt Chiron actually work, or would it fail the moment it touched the road? As Matt sat behind the wheel for the first time since the crash, one thing was clear. This was not going to be a normal test drive. This was a test of skill, courage, and belief against all odds. The journey to this moment was anything but smooth. One of the biggest challenges came from Bugatti itself, as the company refused to supply parts for the rebuild. This forced Matt and his team to think outside the box and find alternative solutions for every single component. The most difficult problem they faced was the cooling system, especially the radiators. Without proper cooling, the Chiron's massive engine could not function safely, and the entire project would fail. This is where Bob, a skilled fabricator, played a key role. Instead of waiting for unavailable factory parts, Bob decided to build custom radiators from scratch. This was not an easy task. It required precise measurements, advanced welding skills, and a deep understanding of how the cooling system works. The first attempt looked promising, but disaster struck during testing. The radiator developed a leak, not because of poor workmanship, but due to damage during shipping. A small dent caused by mishandling was enough to break the seal and ruin hours of work. This meant starting over from the beginning. Bob had to remove all the custom parts he had carefully built, find a new core, and rebuild everything again. Even a tiny difference of just 1 millimeter in size created alignment issues, forcing further modifications. Every step forward seemed to bring a new problem, testing the patience and determination of the team as the rebuild continued. More challenges appeared, proving just how complex the Chiron really is. During installation of the new radiator, leaks appeared again due to tiny pinholes in the welds. This forced the team to drain all 39 liters of coolant and remove the system once more. At one point, Matt even tried to fix the problem himself by welding the leaks, but it quickly became clear that some tasks are best left to professionals. This moment added a human touch to the story, showing that even experienced builders can struggle when working on something this advanced. While Bob focused on perfecting the cooling system, Matt began noticing something surprising about the car. Many of the parts inside the Chiron were not unique to Bugatti. Instead, they were shared with other vehicles from the Volkswagen Group. Components like the fuse box, air pump, and even crash sensors came from cars such as Lamborghini, Audi, and Porsche. This discovery challenged the idea that the Chiron was entirely built from exclusive parts. It showed that even a multi-million-dollar hypercar relies on shared technology, raising questions about how these cars are designed and priced. For Matt, this was another sign that rebuilding the car outside the factory might not be as impossible as it seemed. One of the most impressive parts of the rebuild was the creation of the front crash bar. This component is critical because it holds many important parts in place, including the bumper, sensors, and structural elements. The original crash bar was completely destroyed in the accident, leaving no clear reference for how it should look. Without access to another Chiron for scanning or measurement, Bob had to rely on his experience and creativity. He spent over 60 hours carefully shaping a new crash bar using aluminum, matching the original design as closely as possible. This process involved cutting, bending, welding, and adjusting the metal until everything fit perfectly. When the finished piece was installed, it aligned perfectly on the first attempt. This moment was a turning point in the project, showing that even the most complex parts could be recreated with enough skill and effort. It was not just engineering, it was craftsmanship at the highest level. For many viewers, this was the moment they realized that the rebuild might actually succeed. With the major components finally in place, it was time to test the cooling system again. Using a vacuum filling method, the team carefully added coolant to the system, ensuring there were no air pockets or leaks. This process required patience and precision, as even a small mistake could cause serious damage. As the system filled, the tension in the workshop grew. Would the radiators hold this time, or would all the work go to waste again? When the engine was started, everyone watched closely as the temperature slowly increased. At first, everything seemed fine, but then the temperature climbed higher, testing the limits of the system. Finally, the cooling fans activated, and the temperature stabilized. This was the moment they had been waiting for. The custom-built radiators were working perfectly, keeping the powerful engine under control. It was a huge victory for the team, and a clear sign that the project was nearing completion. After months of setbacks and challenges, things were finally coming together. The most exciting moment of the entire project came next, the first drive. With the car partially assembled and no windshield installed yet, Matt prepared to take the Chiron out for a test. This was not just any test drive. It was the first time the car would move under its own power since being split in half. As the engine started and the car began to roll forward, there was a mix of excitement and fear. Every sound, every movement was carefully monitored. To everyone's surprise, the car drove smoothly, almost as if nothing had ever happened. But the fear was still there. Matt knew that he was driving a car he had rebuilt piece by piece, and there was always a chance that something could go wrong. As he accelerated, the power of the Chiron became clear. Even a short burst of speed was enough to remind him just how powerful the machine was. It was a thrilling yet nerve-wracking experience, combining the joy of success with the risk of failure. In the end, this project became more than just a rebuild. It became a statement. By successfully driving the Chiron without using factory parts or official support, Matt Armstrong proved that what was once considered impossible could actually be done. This challenged the idea that only manufacturers have the power to repair and maintain their vehicles. It also raised important questions about access to parts and the right to repair complex machines. For viewers, this story was not just about a car. It was about determination, creativity, and the willingness to take risks. As the project moves toward completion, with paint and final touches still to come, one thing is certain. This rebuild will be remembered as one of the most impressive achievements in automotive history. It shows that with enough skill and persistence, even the most difficult challenges can be overcome. Even after that first successful drive, the journey was not completely over. In fact, this was a stage where small hidden problems could still appear and ruin everything if not handled carefully. When you rebuild a car as complex as a Bugatti Chiron, especially one that had been split into two pieces, it is not enough for it to simply move. Every system must be tested again and again to make sure it is safe, reliable, and working exactly as it should. After the first drive, Matt and his team began closely checking every detail. They listened for strange noises, watched for warning lights, and inspected every connection point. Even a small vibration or unusual sound could mean something was not aligned correctly. This level of attention is what separates a basic repair from a true rebuild. At the same time, the success of the first drive had already sent a strong message across the automotive world. Many people who once doubted the project were now starting to change their opinions. Forums, social media, and car communities were filled with discussions about how this rebuild was even possible. Some people praised the creativity and effort, while others questioned whether the car could truly match factory standards. But no matter what people believed, one fact could not be ignored. The Chiron was driving again. That alone was enough to prove that the project had crossed a major milestone, and it gave the team the confidence to move forward with the final stages of the build. Work continued. Attention shifted toward refining the car and making it as close to perfect as possible. This included aligning body panels, adjusting suspension components, and preparing for the final paint job. For a car like the Bugatti Chiron, appearance is just as important as performance. Every line, every curve, and every detail must look flawless. But achieving that level of perfection on a rebuilt car is extremely difficult. Unlike factory-built cars, where everything is made with precise machines and controlled environments, this rebuild relied heavily on manual work and human judgment. That meant small imperfections could easily appear if not carefully corrected. Matt and his team spent hours making tiny adjustments, ensuring that panels lined up correctly and gaps were consistent. At the same time, they continued testing the car's mechanical systems, pushing it slightly harder with each test drive. This gradual approach helped them build confidence in the car's reliability, while also identifying any weak points that needed improvement. It was a slow and careful process, but it was necessary to make sure the final result would not only work, but also look and feel like a true hypercar. The goal was not just to prove Bugatti wrong, but to create something that could stand proudly next to a factory-built Chiron. Another important part of this stage was dealing with electronics and software systems. Modern hypercars like the Bugatti Chiron rely heavily on advanced electronics to control everything from engine performance to safety features. Rebuilding the physical parts of the car was already a huge challenge, but making all the electronic systems work together correctly was just as difficult. Many of these systems are designed to work only with official parts and factory tools, which made the process even more complicated. Matt had to find creative ways to bypass certain limitations, using compatible components from other vehicles within the Volkswagen Group. This approach required a deep understanding of how these systems communicate and operate. Even a small mismatch in signals could cause errors or prevent the car from functioning properly. Slowly but surely, the team managed to reduce warning lights and get more systems working as intended. This was another major achievement, showing that even highly advanced automotive technology could be adapted and repaired outside of official channels. It also highlighted an important point. While manufacturers often claim that their cars require specialized support, skilled individuals with the right knowledge can still find ways to solve these problems independently. As the rebuild neared completion, the story began to take on a deeper meaning beyond just one car. What Matt Armstrong accomplished was not just about fixing a damaged Bugatti Chiron, but about challenging long-standing beliefs in the automotive industry. For years, many manufacturers have maintained tight control over parts, repairs, and technical information, making it difficult for independent mechanics to work on their vehicles. This project showed that with enough determination, skill, and creativity, it is possible to break through those barriers. It also sparked conversations about the right to repair, a growing movement that argues people should have the freedom to fix and modify their own products. In many ways, this rebuild became a symbol of that idea. It demonstrated that innovation does not only come from large companies, but also from individuals who are willing to take risks and think differently. For viewers, this added an extra layer of interest to the story, turning it from a simple rebuild into something much more meaningful. It was no longer just about whether the car would work, but about what the project represented for the future of car ownership and repair. Looking ahead, the final stages of the project promised to be just as exciting as everything that came before. With the car now running and driving, the focus will shift toward finishing touches, including paint, interior details, and final testing. Once completed, the rebuilt Bugatti Chiron will stand as proof of what can be achieved with passion and perseverance. It will also serve as a reminder that impossible is often just a word used to describe something that has not been tried yet. For Matt Armstrong, this project is likely to be one of the defining moments of his career, showcasing his ability to take on challenges that others would avoid. For the audience, it is a story that inspires curiosity, excitement, and respect for the art of engineering. And for the automotive world, it is a moment that may lead to new discussions about how cars are built, repaired, and understood. In the end, this is more than just a story of a car. It is a story about pushing limits, questioning assumptions, and proving that with enough effort, even the most difficult challenges can be overcome. As the project moved into its final phase, one of the most important steps was building long-term confidence in the car. A single successful drive was impressive, but it was not enough to prove that the rebuilt Bugatti Chiron was truly reliable. Matt and his team needed to test the car under different conditions, gradually increasing speed and stress to see how it would perform over time. This meant longer drives, more acceleration tests, and careful monitoring of temperatures, pressures, and system behavior. Every test added new information, helping the team understand how well their work was holding up. Small adjustments were still being made along the way, from tightening bolts to refining alignment and improving cooling efficiency. This stage required patience because rushing could lead to serious problems. At the same time, the excitement was growing. Each successful test brought the car closer to being fully complete, and each passing day made the impossible seem more normal. For viewers following the journey, this phase was both satisfying and tense. They had seen the car in its worst condition, completely broken and separated, and now they were watching it slowly return to life. It created a strong emotional connection, making every success feel earned and every risk feel real. Another key part of finishing the build was the visual transformation of the car. While the mechanical side had already proven its strength, the exterior still needed to reflect the level of quality expected from a hypercar like the Bugatti Chiron. Preparing a car for paint after such a major rebuild is extremely challenging. The surface must be perfectly smooth, panels must align precisely, and every detail must be checked multiple times. Even a tiny imperfection can stand out once the paint is applied. Matt and his team carefully sanded, adjusted, and refined the bodywork to achieve the best possible finish. Choosing the right color was also an important decision, as it would define the final look of the car. This stage was not just about appearance. It was about restoring the identity of the vehicle. A Chiron is not just fast. It is also a piece of art designed to impress from every angle. Bringing back that visual impact after such a severe accident was a challenge in itself. But just like the mechanical rebuild, it was approached with the same level of care and attention to detail. The goal was clear. When people saw the finished car, they should not see a rebuilt vehicle. They should see a masterpiece. As the story of this rebuild spread further, it began to attract attention beyond just car enthusiasts. Media outlets, automotive experts, and even people who had never followed car builds before started talking about it. The idea that someone could rebuild a hypercar without factory support captured the imagination of many. It raised questions about how modern cars are designed and whether manufacturers rely too much on controlling parts and repairs. The involvement of Matt Armstrong made the story even more powerful, as he represented the independent creator taking on a massive challenge. His journey showed that knowledge and determination can compete with large organizations, even in highly technical fields. At the same time, it also highlighted the importance of skilled individuals like Bob, whose fabrication work played a huge role in making the project successful. Together, they demonstrated what could be achieved when experience, creativity, and persistence come together. For many viewers, this was inspiring. It showed that even the most complex problems can be solved step by step, as long as you are willing to keep trying and learning from your mistakes. In the end, the rebuilt Bugatti Chiron became more than just a car. It became a symbol of what is possible when limits are challenged. The project proved that even a vehicle considered too complex to repair outside the factory could be brought back to life with the right approach. It also changed the way many people think about car ownership and repair, encouraging a more open and creative mindset. For Matt Armstrong, this achievement will likely, even after reaching what many would call the finish line, the learning from this project did not stop. In fact, one of the most valuable outcomes of rebuilding the Bugatti Chiron was the deep understanding Matt and his team gained about how such an advanced machine is engineered. Every system they worked on, from cooling to structure to electronics, taught them something new. These lessons are not just useful for this one build, but will carry forward into future projects, making them even more capable of handling complex challenges. For viewers, this behind-the-scenes learning is just as interesting as the final result.